Yeah, so I was asked to present in this session on collaborating for quality, Inline XBRL. Right. Specifically about narratives. So new developments on narrative tagging. I'm at the company Taxxor. And well, to explain this, how do we get quality? What are the latest developments on narrative tagging? I would like to go back a bit of why we founded Taxxor. Years ago, 2010, I think, I was working for Deloitte as a consultant. One of my clients was Philips. They were preparing for XBRL SEC filing. They're an IFRS filer, so they had a couple of years later when their deadline started. When we've been helping them to select software for SEC filing, and we couldn't find the right tool, the tool that did what we wanted to see a tool doing. So with a couple of guys from Philips, myself, my brother, we started proof of concept software for SEC filing. So it was still XBRL, plain XBRL with detailed tagging. We showed the product and they loved it. So we got budget, we got funded to develop the full product. Then what happened? Inline XBRL came up. But by the approach we were using, I will tell a bit more about it. What happened? We could effectively prepare for Inline XBRL already. So we were the first IFRS Inline XBRL filing at the SEC. The reason I'm telling this is to understand how we do narrative tagging. I think it's good to understand where we are coming from. So I'll do a brief introduction. I'll tell you about what is quality of data. And this is the thinking process we went through, but I think it's still relevant. I was just in the panel discussion in the tech track on XHTML first. And I think with all the converters still in the market, I think it's still relevant, the thought process we went through. So I'll show also the traditional reporting process and what a modern reporting process should look like and what we are doing. So Inline XBRL, it's more relevant than ever. And now with the SEC, ESEF, but CSRD coming up. So here's a timeline of the programs that have come up. There's probably more around the world, but these are the 3 major programs that are relevant for our company and for our clients. Where XBRL used to be, as simple, I would say of course, it's not very simple, but plain XBRL, like reporting to central banks, you just need a lot of data points and you need to map them from your source systems. There's various from simple to complicated products to do that, but you just need to define your data points. If you press the button, you get the report. Inline XBRL is different. Of course, there's also redundant information in it. Numbers are used on multiple locations. And that is, as I will show you, it's actually a red flag for data quality. How do you assure that these numbers are correct across the report? And especially if you use them in the narratives. With SEC tagging, you need to tag all the numbers. So your software will warn you if numbers are incorrect, right? If you have a profit of 1,500 in one location and 1,400 in the other, the XBRL will be invalid. With ESEF tagging, you don't tag the numbers in the narratives. So if you don't link your data to the source, you have to manually check everything. We've seen that happening in several occasions, but data quality is about that. A bit of theory. So data quality, it's one of the aspects of data governance, right? If you don't have your data governance in place, with the data architecture, the modeling, with your data security, well, how can you deliver a good report? That you need good data to produce a good report, to produce good information. Well, information is data, but with context. And in an Inline XBRL report, you have the taxonomy describing what is reported, but you also have the whole narrative giving the context to the numbers. But again, data quality starts with data governance. If we zoom in on data quality itself, and these models, they come from DAMA, the Data Management Association. There are 6 dimensions of data quality: timeliness, consistency, uniqueness, accuracy, completeness, and validity. What if I show you a reporting process, and when we get new clients, some of them are still reporting like this. What if you have a reporting process where there's a black box where people gather all the Word documents, the Excel documents, they type in information, a result comes out, it goes to a design agency, they style it in a black box, they put a design on it, a PDF comes out, and then you have a tool that converts the PDF into Inline XBRL. 3 black boxes in a row. How do you know what the data quality is when it comes out, right? You can have data governance in place, of course, on all your internal data, your ERP system, right? There's a data management team. All your definitions are in your ERP system. But after all these black boxes, how do you know what is what? And then at the end of the process, you reapply definitions to what has come out of the black boxes, right? So to us, that sounded strange. So it's not how we want to produce Inline XBRL. So you don't know what the data quality will be at the end. So if you use the old way of reporting, you lose the metadata of all the definitions in your ERP system. You lose the structure, you lose the definitions. There's no data lineage anymore, right? If you have a number somewhere in your Inline XBRL, the auditor wants to know where the data comes from. Of course, they have to look it up manually. They have to check everything manually. But what if you wouldn't lose all this metadata, all this extra information in between? You would be able to provide better reports. Well, better tables, of course, but more importantly, better narratives with all the numbers in the narratives linked to the original data. Another thing is, with all these black boxes, the reports, how do you manage the reports? Who manages the report when it lands on the desk of the designer? How do you know nothing goes wrong there? Some of the clients that we have, they need to comply with Sarbanes-Oxley, right? There's a strict regulation on how you handle information, how you handle documents. Well, on financial reporting, most of the times you just do the whole checking at the end. You check whether the outcome meets the input. But if you have better control over your whole process, you don't need to do that anymore. We see data documents going over email sometimes to external agencies, even if you have all these secure policies in place in your company. So if we look at the old process from the 6 dimensions of data quality, accuracy. You don't know if your data is accurate because it's no longer tied to the source. Completeness. Same thing. Not tied to the source. You cannot verify if you have used everything as a complete picture from the source. Consistency. You cannot be consistent if you don't have the attributes anymore. I've seen a report where people were changing the currency of a number. It was a feature of the product they were using. Well, to us, that's weird. If a number comes out as euros, you shouldn't be able to change it to pounds, for example. Just like that. Timeliness. Most of the work in the process, in the traditional process, is at the end. As soon as you have the numbers, you can start the whole process. You can put the document together. You send it to the printer company or to the designer agency, and then you have to convert it to Inline XBRL. We have a new client. Last year they were using a converter. The designer changed something in the design. One day before the annual shareholders meeting, it wouldn't convert anymore. They had to postpone the shareholder meeting. That's a big issue. So they asked us, please make a report already now in November. We can do that. We can make the report already in November. And it's a repeatable process. Uniqueness. Well, and that's a funny thing in Inline XBRL. Because numbers appear on different locations, it doesn't require uniqueness in a data modeling sense, because facts appear in different locations, in different statements or in the text. And I said it before, with tag data, XBRL will detect it, but with non-tag data, you don't know if you're using numbers in different locations. Well, and the validity of the document, yes, you define your calculation link base at the end of the process. So you do know if the calculations are correct. But again, that's only about the primary financial statements for ESEF reporting. If you have the link to your report, you will know the consistency, the relationships between the concepts. So this is what we thought. We need to design a better reporting process, and there are other vendors as well that do the same thing, but for some companies it's difficult to see. Why do we need to change the whole reporting process? We just want Inline XBRL. Why don't we use a converter? But the clients that we have, they spend less time on reporting, especially after the year end, because they can prepare in advance. They can prepare for year end, before year end. So here you have data lineage, you have versioning, you have consistency. You can put more emphasis on the whole preparation of the process. So how we work, we have a design package, and it's CSS, it's modern technology. We work with design agencies. They can prepare a design package. We link to the data sources. It can be spreadsheets. Most of our clients, they start with linking to their spreadsheets, but after 1 year or 2 years, we link directly to the data sources, to ERP systems or databases. And of course, you have your narratives. You have people writing or in the content management system, or other departments handing over text. And then we have a process of multi-channel output. So investor relation website can be generated directly. We can generate Inline XBRL, or even, well, PDFs in a print-ready format, or PDF for online purposes. So this is in our opinion, the better process to be ready for Inline XBRL. With ESEF, with the limited tagging requirements, right? Primary financial statements, and dozens or hundreds of block tags, it's manageable. But now with CSRD coming up, there will be a lot more data that needs to be in Inline XBRL. So this is the way that we work, right? So we have a content management system. It's what you see is what you get. You don't tag the data, but you map the data, right? So the data that is in here, it's not manually tagged. You don't select it as look something up from the taxonomy. No, you have your definitions coming from your data source, and you tie them directly to the taxonomy. So everywhere you use that data element, it will be tied to the data source, but also tied to the resulting XBRL definition. The block tagging is also done in our interface. So you can select text, you block tag it, including all these tight numbers. So to give you an example, we have, let me see which one I took. Yeah, I think this is the revenue. So we have a revenue for 2022. It's almost 18 billion. It's a number appearing in multiple locations, of course in the P&L, but also in this results of operations note. The reason it's highlighted here is because it's coming from a data source, not necessarily that it will come out as inline XBRL. It depends on the regulator. For ESEF filing, notes don't need detailed tagging. For SEC filing, notes do. So it's configurable. So we have a reported fact of 17.8 billion euros. And its revenue. Our client has an internal definition of total sales, but it's tied directly to the source from their ERP system. It's a data set they defined in their ERP system. They work with hierarchies in SAP. They have definitions in SAP, total sales. The number comes straight out of the ERP system. When you insert the number in the different locations, or you design a table where the number is in, or you insert the fact, you can choose how it's reported, what kind of display option you want, but it's in millions, in billions, in thousands, with the currency, without the currency. This is how our tool works. So it's mapping and not tagging to be able to produce higher quality reports with less time after your closing moment. So most of our clients, they experience less working time after year end. That first client of ours, Philips, they said, why aren't we ordering food at the office anymore in the evening during the year end? People were ready. People were ready with their work. So that was the biggest compliment, actually. Yeah, they also reduce costs, but and more importantly, even they have better quality findings. So what are the benefits then on these 6 dimensions? Well, you map data to the source, so you have a data lineage report available. Which number in the report, whether it has an XBRL tag or not, you know where it comes from, whether it's from an ERP system, which definition, when it came from the ERP system. If it comes from an Excel sheet, which sheet, what location in the Excel sheet. The completeness. Well, the reporting definitions and the calculations, they are tied to the source data models, so we can check for completeness. So the calculations, they should match with relationships in the ERP system. If not, well, you will get a warning. Consistency, right? You get the data attributes all the way from your source system, whether the currency, the precision, the scale of the numbers, the signing. So you cannot make you cannot make the mistakes about being 1,000 or 1,000,000 off. And timeliness, well, that's what I said. You can do so much more before. You have the design agency doing the design before year end, instead of being in that critical phase where they have to put everything in InDesign and convert it to a PDF, and then after that converting into Inline XBRL. So here you shift the work to before year end. The other 2 dimensions, validity. Well, XBRL takes care of the validity of XBRL tag data, right? Is the number correct, correctly structured? Is there a currency if it's a monetary? But not for the non-tag data. Well, if you have this approach, you will still get this data quality. So, and the same goes for uniqueness. So that is what we do, and this is the ideas that we had years ago, and yeah, we are very happy that our clients see the same benefits and get the right results from it. So for Philips, we were the first IFRS SEC Inline XBRL filing. For another client of ours, who were the first ESEF block tagging filing when it was still voluntary, because of the design we chose years ago, appears to work very well with all these requirements, with the Inline XBRL requirement. Especially now with CSRD coming, we are already helping our clients to set up the reports with the draft taxonomy. And yeah, for them, it works seamless. So that was it. Are there any questions?
Thank you very much, Bas. That's very, very interesting presentation. Any questions? Sure. Oh, there we go.
So I assume that your internal model, the mappings are fully rich of keeping track of everything, and at the last minute it's like, okay, the one channel is an inline XBRL report, which then is tagged for sure.
Yeah.
But the mapping got lost. Well, if you use your software, then you can just repress the button for sure. But would you advocate for that the inline XBRL standard would allow for like backtracking, mapping annotations, that even if I would get your results and I would have the same sources, I could relink them with a different suite, or if the in-between layer got lost, that the standard would facilitate this? Would you advocate for that?
Oh, that's an interesting question. We are using technology for the internal production of the inline XBRL. So yes, that we do have the technology to get that data lineage, but we do it in a proprietary way. So we produce an internal version that will go to the auditor, that is used internally. But if the standard would facilitate that, that would be very helpful. Yeah, it's a good point. And of course, you do for a public filing, you don't want to include this information, but yeah, for certain purposes and for software to be able to standardize on that will be very helpful.
I'm not sure whether there's a use case anywhere, but it makes me curious indeed.
Yeah. Well, in our situation, it is because our client, if they produce the inline XBRL report, sometimes they want to look up what is the composition of this number that appears eventually in the inline XBRL report. So they can use our internal modified viewer and see, okay, this comes from the ERP system and has, well, that certain definition that I'm showing here, or it comes from an Excel sheet, or maybe it was manually entered. So, yeah. Thanks.
I have one, if I may.
Yeah.
Narrative disclosures, which is what we've been talking about
Yeah.
quite a lot over the last.
Yeah.
Obviously, most of those, I guess the pure sort of narrative doesn't necessarily come from an ERP system. How do you kind of link? How does that work?
So the core of the system is a content management system. So it's free format. You define the hierarchy of your chapters in it, but yes, you can type, or the people with the right access rights, they can type their own piece of data. But as soon as they start using numbers, they will have to look it up from the data source. So for most of the clients, it feels normal. Even the people that are not in actually producing numbers, but the people that are writing with it, they use our CMS and they just write. They can apply block tags to it. But again, yeah, always with data where possible tied to the source. Yeah.
If you write a sort of narrative disclosure in the system, and include a number, it'll sort of automatically say, "Hang on, where's that number come from?"
Yeah.
If you like, within the ERP system. Okay.
Yeah. So for our system, well, the narrative is just part of the CMS, but narratives, especially the linking with the data to provide good quality, is important. And we are working, and sometimes for certain areas it works. Here, for example, there's an example of what does it say? 3.9% higher. So we can use different words on whether it's something is a positive, whether it's a negative. We're expanding that. Well, most writers don't actually want to use that because you don't want uncontrollable, whether it's a -1%. It's not only you want lower instead of higher, but you probably want to modify the whole paragraph. That's the thing, but the functionality is there. But yeah, in the end, it's people that are actually writing. Yeah, and well, maybe AI can do quite a lot of that if you provide the table and you generate text interpreting the table. We're not working with that, but yeah, it's something that comes up now and then. Yeah.
Any other questions?
I have one more small question. Do you ever run into a designer that says, "Oh, if I had InDesign, I could do this nice graphy thingy"?
Yeah.
Is the answer simply, okay, just do it in CSS because any CSS will go in here, good luck? Or do you ever have this chase of features of other CMS suites or InDesign? Or
we had a new client with quite an advanced InDesign design, and our first impression was, well, we can redo 75% of the design and 25% we cannot. Then we started working, and actually we got 90%, okay, and 10% we couldn't. And then still we can insert separate. So when there's a one-off page with a very specific design, we can have one-off PDF pages inserted. So even that we mitigate. And in the end, some clients faster than others, they accept it. They realize, okay, the data is more important than design. Although just in the other tech track, Rob from I don't know his company name, but he showed beautiful he showed beautiful design. So with CSS you can do a lot more than most people realize. Actually, the reason that the reports, in my opinion, still look, the ones that we even produce, still look quite boring is because the accountants don't want to be too flashy. The client themselves, they still want the paginated look, even though, well, why do you need it? But it's quite a conservative world. But yeah, I think most of it can be done, and probably CSS brings new functions as well that maybe can't be done when you do InDesign for a PDF.